And now I'm going to call Lucas. Yes, all good. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome for those ones that are watching. Tonight, I'm going to give a consulting service to Lucas Padilha. He's a civil engineer from Brazil, and he's participated in the Black Week from Hello Australia when Hello Australia did the Black Week in November. And Lucas, he registered to my free workshop, Engineering Qualification Validation, in Australia via Hello Australia. And then, amongst others, I did a draw, and Lucas was the lucky one to win the draw. And then he got this consulting service for free, pretty much 1 hour worth about $300. So, and tonight we're going to talk with him about his validation process. He's got a few questions, not just about validation process, but also we're going to talk about a few things about recruitment, his curriculum, cover letter, and so on. So I'm going to admit him. I think we're going to start the chat in Portuguese. Those ones in I've got some people in Instagram. Are you guys from Instagram? Are you guys from Brazil? Are you guys from another place? So I know. So depending on the language that you guys talk, perhaps we need to talk in English. But I think that we'll have a look. And you could be asking yourself, well, if the consulting service is going to be with Lucas, why should I watch this video? Why should I watch this live session? And the answer is very simple. Lucas, he's putting together his CDR application, Competency Demonstration Report, and he's got a lot of questions. And I spoke with him already, and I can tell you, majority of those questions, they will be your question. So even though I'm going to have a chat with Lucas and answer his questions, I am 100% sure that his questions can be your questions. If you haven't started yet your validation process, obviously you don't probably have a question, so it's useful for you anyway. But if you have started already your validation process and you potentially could be a little bit stuck, it means that you cannot really go forward, you cannot really go backward. It's because you probably have some questions, and Lucas' questions can help you. So I'll get Lucas into our meeting. Yeah, Bruno is in Brazil, which is good. Yeah, yeah. And bem-vindo, Lucas. Lucas está conectando ainda no áudio. Yeah, yeah, it's getting good. Still connecting. Ainda está conectando ali. No Facebook. Beleza. Sempre tem um delay. Sempre tem um delay aqui no Facebook ou no Instagram, mas esse delay ele acontece só quando a gente está aqui ao vivo e eu vejo ali, eu acompanho no meu outro monitor como é que estão as coisas no Facebook e no Instagram, mas vocês aí não vai ter delay nenhum. Quando chega o delay, chega o vídeo com atraso e o áudio com atraso também. Lucas, acho que você ainda tá no mudo ali. Eu consigo ver beleza, agora acho que deu. Então, bem-vindo, Lucas, e o sortudo aí do sorteio da Black Week da Hello Austrália. Seja bem-vindo e obrigado por ter acordado cedo aí no Brasil, né? São 7h45 da manhã aí no Brasil. E fala um pouco de você aí, Lucas. Fala um pouco da sua história. Você é engenheiro do quê? Faz quanto tempo que você se formou? Já conhece a Austrália? Fala um pouco de você aí pra gente, por favor.
Good morning, everyone. Bom dia, boa noite para quem está aí na Austrália. Inglês ou português?
Você que sabe. Se você quiser arriscar no inglês, a gente vai até onde der.
Tá bom. So, my name is Lucas Padilha. I'm civil engineer. I had 26 years old. I used to live in Australia. I spent 1 year studying diploma of project management and 1 year studying advanced diploma of leadership management. I was studying in Australia, and when I completed my degree, I went for a holidays, and I went to Thailand when this coronavirus happened, and I had to come back to Brazil. I couldn't go back to Australia, and now I'm working in my uh, CDR to validate my diploma as engineer to go back to Australia as an engineer. And I am pretty much like halfway done. I hope Jairus is going to clarify all my questions, and I I will get it done to next year, or maybe to study my future to come back to Australia and be an engineer in Australia.
Yeah, that's very good, Lucas. As you probably know, I'm also a civil engineer, and I'm always happy when I see other engineers, other Brazilian or pretty much overseas engineers, when they manage to get their qualification validated here in Australia and succeed, because we overseas engineers, we know how difficult is our life in our home country, and then when we get the blessing to be able to work as an engineer here in Australia, we certainly take the opportunity, and we work very hard, and we do very well in the market, in the industry. Yeah, that's good, Lucas, and I hope that I can help you, and I can kind of clarify some of your doubts and your questions. So we had already a little bit of a chat, and you've got a few questions, so you can probably start with whatever question you want, and then we can elaborate on that.
Awesome. So we know this way to validate your diploma, not an easy way. You have to do a lot of hard work as well. Have to read all as much as information you can, and to write your CDR, and to write everything very well so engineers Australia can um, allow us to be engineer, of course. And I already started my CDR, um, and I have a few questions. And my first question is like, for the process of application, we have to attach some documents for the engineers Australia.
Yeah.
And in the part of the academic certificate, we have to attach our diploma of engineer in Brazil. And also, I would like to know if you have to attach some extra certificates that we, for example, we did an extra course related to my area, you know. And also, for example, in my case, I studied advanced diploma and diploma in Australia
Yeah.
as a project management, and I would like to know if I also could attach these documents in their parts of academic certificate.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Lucas, and it's a very common question, actually. So when you gotta pay attention that step number 3 in the CDR application, your competency demonstration report. Step number three is about your academic documentation. So obviously, when you graduated as a bachelor in civil engineering, for example, you have your certificate for your bachelor degree. So certainly you gotta provide your certificate, or in Brazil we say diploma, and obviously translate that by an authorized translator. And then the extracurricular certificates that you may have. For example, if you did a graduate diploma, a graduate certificate, a post graduation course after you graduated, step number three, they talk about for you to attach your bachelor degree and any other relevant academic documentation. So when you interpret what relevant academic documentation means, it means your academic transcript, histórico acadêmico, and also your other certificates. For example, your diploma in project management, your advanced diploma in project management. They can also be considered as other relevant academic documentation. So uh, I can share what I did when I did my CDR application. I obviously put my certificate of my bachelor degree, but I also included pretty much all my other certificates, and I did a lot of studies. I did studies. I don't know. I think at that time, I think I did about three or four post graduation courses, and I attached all of them. It's important. The important message is that you are trying to sell to Engineers Australia your competency as an engineer, and professional development is always going to be always a plus to your professional competency. So Engineers Australia is very aware that those professionals that they keep developing themselves, they are always concerned about being a good professional. The professionals that they do not do professional development, Engineers Australia, they don't really see with good eyes. So, does it make a lot of difference? Perhaps not in terms of the content to address your competencies, but it does make a difference to the Engineers Australia assessor when he or she is evaluating you as a professional. Because imagine the following situation: the assessor, he or she, has one engineer that hasn't done much professional development, and there's another engineer that has done lots of professional development. The impression that this engineer is going to pass to the assessor is one impression, maybe not a good impression, but the impression that this other engineer is going to give to the assessor, because this professional did a lot of professional development, the assessor is going to have a good impression about this professional. And the good impression, it does make difference in the assessment. So I certainly would translate those certificates, those ones that you did in Brazil. Obviously, those ones here in Australia, they're already in English, so you don't need to translate. But I would certainly attach and include in your CDR application. And
Awesome.
if they can be included in your CPD, in your continuing professional development, yeah, certainly they can. Um Pretty much all the learning events that you did after your graduation, you can all include those in your CPD. And just and it doesn't need to be just courses, doesn't need to be just diplomas or advanced diplomas or post graduation courses. learning events, it's much more than the formal education. It can be the informal education, like reading technical magazines and reading technical specifications, articles, participation in workshops, seminars, conferences, technical visits, technical inspections, site visits that you did and you learned something. All of those learning events after you graduated, they all can be used in your CPD.
Only after the conclusion of the degree.
Only after, yeah, because yeah, CPD stands for Continuing Professional Development. In Engineers Australia, they consider that you become a professional after you graduated. So a lot of people, a lot of engineers, they, especially those ones that they are already, for example, technicians, and then they're already technicians, and then they keep studying to become an engineer. And in the meantime, they do a lot of courses while they were technicians, and then they ask, oh, can I use this event as part of my CPD for a professional engineer? And the simple answer is no, because you've done the event before your graduation. Unless you are applying for as a technician. If you're applying as a technician, then you can use it. But if you're applying as a professional engineer, in the category of professional engineer, then you can just use your CPD after you graduated.
Awesome. Thank you for the first question.
That's all right.
uh, my second question is, so when we going to write our CDR, we start from a project that we made, academic project, or maybe a professional experience
Yep.
that we did work in the area or something related to our area to write our CDR, right?
Yes.
And my question is, during this process, to of course I write my CDR, but I need to have the original project, for example, in Portuguese, and then translate this project and also attach to Engineer Australia to prove from where did I do this project, how did I write my CDR.
Yeah. Understand that. Yeah. Yeah, that's also a very common question. And obviously, when you are doing your validation process, you can, Engineers Australia is probably is the only assessing entity that does not require work experience to engineers to be able to validate their qualification. So it means that engineers can use just their academic engineering experience. They don't really say in the booklet, but all the cases that I saw that engineers they used academic experience, Engineers Australia ended up asking a copy of the original report. You don't need to translate the full report. Usually, those reports they have like an executive summary, and usually this executive summary is already in English, or if your executive summary is in Portuguese, for example, you can just translate that probably 1 or 2 pages. So you don't need to translate like 40 or 50 pages of your report. But
Okay.
as far as I can see, in GIS Australia, they usually ask you to send the original report, or even if it's a copy, the report to demonstrate that you did. However, if you don't have it, I think that's what you're going to ask. If you don't
Yes.
have the, yeah, Jason, but it's been a while that I graduated, and what if I don't have the report with me anymore? So, can I still use that experience? And as you said, you have very good understanding of the experience, but you don't have the report. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So in this case, and it happened with one of my mentoring students. She was writing. She graduated back in 2003, and then in 2019 she started to write the career episodes. And especially because civil engineers in Brazil, sometimes the work that we do is not really equivalent to what a civil engineer they do here in Australia. The work experience that she had, she couldn't really use here. So she had to go back to her academic studies, and she went back to 2001, so kind of 18 years ago. And she said that she didn't have the report anymore. So I suggested her to do the following. Well, if you remember everything that you did, you can write about the report or the assignment. And she was doing about soil mechanics. She was writing about expensive soils, etc., etc. So she wrote the full career episode on the project that she remembered. And then what I suggested her was to contact the university and talk to the professor, or if the professor wasn't there, to talk with the course coordinator and explain the situation. Hey, yeah, I'm Jerson. I'm trying to validate my qualification in Australia. I need to write my report. I remember that in this subject, I did this assignment. I remember everything that I did, but unfortunately, I don't have the copy of the report. And if the university doesn't have as well, what you can offer is, I would like to know if the university is willing to perhaps give me a letter. I can send what I wrote. You guys can have a look. And then, if you guys could provide me with a letter saying that the report that I wrote is accurate with what the subject is about, and etc., etc., etc. So she did that. She wrote the full career episode. She spoke with the university. She spoke with the professor. She sent the career episode that she wrote. And then the professor wrote back a letter saying that, yes, yes, she was our student. She did this subject in this year. Her grade was this, according to the academic uh, history. And the events that she wrote in the report, they very accurate. They they are what she did as part of the subject, so she managed to pass the subject. So the university provided her the letter as like a reference letter, and she sent that to Engineers Australia, and Engineers Australia accepted. So it can be done if you don't really have the copy of the report. So that's what I suggested to her. It worked for her. I don't know, maybe the assessor, I don't know if this is something normal that assessors they will consider, but it worked for her, can possibly work for you as well.
Yeah, great way to find a solution, because somehow sometimes it can happen with anyone, you know, you can lose your report
Yes.
academically,
Yeah.
or and you don't know what to do anymore, because sometimes was the only way to do your CDR, and then you don't have your reference anymore. But if you can go to the university, um, ask for a letter or something that
Yeah.
prove, it's great. My
Yeah,
third question.
the only thing though is that perhaps you will need to send them. You need to write your career episode first and then send to them so they can obviously read what you wrote, and then they can compare with what the subject is about, and then they can give you a letter then. Yeah.
Okay, but I can also apply my CDR without uh, giving them this report, and then if they request for me, and then I
Yes,
can.
you can. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I I usually suggest you to and I suggest engineers to submit with everything, because every time that because the objective really is for you to get the positive assessment at the first time.
Yeah,
So if they send you a feedback saying that you need to redo something or provide more information, etc., when you do that, there's always that extra level of attention that Engineers Australia will have. So if you can provide beforehand, it's probably better. But you can provide and apply without the evidences. Uh, if they require you, for example, a copy of the report or a letter, they will give you at least 30 days for you to provide a response.
awesome. Uh, my third question is, I think everyone that likes trying to start writing the CDR also have this question because uh, for who doesn't have a good level of English, and wants to start writing your CDR, of course, you're gonna learn a lot of uh, technically words to write your CDR while we are also learning and reviewing everything to write your CDR. But let's say I did the IELTS or PTI test and I got like 50 points.
Yeah.
Okay, I passed, but my level of English is not that good enough, Like, and my question is, if I don't have this very good English, and when I'm writing my CDR, I write like everything, of course, everything has to be in, in a very good grammatic and explaining the concepts, everything in English. But if I don't have this good English, for my notes in PTI is not that good, but in my CDR, everything is perfect. Do you think this can be suspicious for them, like for um, that I don't have like a good English and I'm writing the CDR very well? What do you think they can uh, think about me in this
Yeah,
case?
it's certainly you gotta be, how can I say, consistent. The report needs to be consistent with your level of English. Let's say, for example, 50 in PTE is roughly equivalent to a 6 in IELTS, which is the minimum score for the English exam for you to be able to apply for the validation. But 50 in the PTE or 6 in IELTS, it gives you the level of proficient. So and proficient means that obviously you can write, read, and have good understanding, and you can write a good essay, etc. So obviously, if you present a near perfect report, and if your English test is about 50, obviously, yeah, it can be a little bit suspicious,
Mhm.
because a near perfect report in terms of grammar and words and everything, it's probably more like an 8 or 8.5 in IELTS, or about, I think, 85 in PTE. So you got to be consistent. The way that you write your English report, or your report in English, needs to be consistent with what the your English test result is. Obviously, a little bit of mistakes in the grammar here or there is probably acceptable if you're presenting, let's say 50 in PTE. In terms of the technical words and technical terminology, um, the knowledge of those terminologies doesn't really impact, I believe, in a higher or lower PTE or IELTS, because IELTS is not really to is not really to assess your technical words. So, and because you can get your technical terminologies when you read technical specifications and technical articles, and that's where you learn technical terminologies. But yeah, certainly, I don't recommend and I don't suggest people to get your report reviewed by a translator or somebody that has a really good English, because it can be suspicious. Yeah.
Okay. Because we have a lot of research today, and we can always make sure we have a good standard of English with the internet, and if you also make sure we have CDR 100% very good in English, uh, mm, that was my question. Maybe that can be a bit suspicious.
Yeah, they can kind of suspect about plagiarism, because they may think, well, Lucas has a 15 PTE and his report is equivalent to somebody that has like 85.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
Okay, one my other question is related in the CDR. Uh, when we include pictures, or we include um captions or project details, or anything uh, like a picture from your project, your report academic, and that you want to mention in your CDR. Uh, for example, if I have a picture in Portuguese or any information in Portuguese, can I include it in my CDR in Portuguese, or and like explain the context in English? What is that about? Or better not include any information in Portuguese in my CDR?
Well, if your career episode, if it's, for example, it's based on an academic report.
Yes.
Sorry, it's getting some feedback here. Um, if your report or your career episode is based on an academic report, which is in Portuguese, and if the academic report has, for example, a table in Portuguese, and you are explaining about that particular table, you can actually include that table in Portuguese. The only thing that you need to do, you always got to reference. You got to say table number one, for example, about, let's say, concrete strength. Let's say that it's a concrete strength table uh, coming from my academic report. And then if the picture of the table has headings in Portuguese, I suggest you to put a legend, because the assessor needs to understand what the table is about.
Yeah.
So, uh,
For example, in my CDR, I was explaining about pre-stressed concrete,
yeah,
and I had a real project in the construction company where I worked, and I was explaining already about all the pre-stressed concrete in my CDR, and I took a picture of my real project, but of with like Portuguese subtitles, explaining with a detail of a part of the pre-stressed concrete, and I was explaining my CDR, and but everything that was on the picture was in Portuguese, of course. But of course, I was explaining everything in English in my CDR. So, but that was my question: if I really could include a picture in Portuguese.
yes, yeah, yes, you can, especially if it was you that took the picture,
Yes.
and if it was part of your work. Yes, certainly you can. You just need to reference. Is everything is about referencing. If you put the reference saying that that project or that drawing was done by somebody else, but was the drawing that you use in your work, and you took a picture, You can explain that that was the drawing that I used to do my job, etc., etc. This picture here came from that project, um, the legend, and then there are some terminologies in Portuguese where the translation are those, etc., etc. You can do that.
Okay, and same for example, in my academic report, when I was doing my academic report, when I was doing uni, I had to take a picture from the internet to make my academic report. And now I'm doing my CDR uh, based in my academic report. And I want to take that picture to put in my CDR, but I didn't take that picture. I took from the internet. Can I use that?
Yeah, pictures from internet are always a bit dangerous. If you're doing, depends on what the picture is about. If you took a picture, for example, you were consulting technical specification, and then you open up the document on the internet, and then you grab a table from the technical specification, a picture of that. So then you can explain that that picture is from a table from the technical specification, NBR, whatever number, etc., etc. Uh, as long as you reference, it's important. It's always important to reference, because what plagiarism is when you use somebody else's work as being yours.
Mhm.
So if you take a picture from the internet that somebody else did and you use in your report and you don't say anything, it implies that you did that, you took that picture or you did that table, whatever. But when you say the reference, when you reference saying that that picture I took from, let's say, a manufacturer's manual, a lot of times, mechanical engineers, for example, they grab pictures from manufacturer's manual and they put in the report. So they can say that that came from the manufacturer's manual, and just to illustrate, for example, the type of machine that they were talking about. So as long as you reference saying that and giving credits to whoever is the author of the table or the picture, that's fine. But if you can avoid, is better. But if you have to use it, certainly you need to reference.
Okay. Um, well, my other question also referring my CDR. Uh, so during the development of the CDR, we must create a chart about the hierarchy of the company or the university uh, that takes me the role and in the context, right? So I would like to know when I create this chart, I have to just include the position of the only the position of the person or also the name of the person or both or how it works.
Yeah, and that's a very good question, Lucas. And the organizational chart doesn't really need to be very polluted. It's certainly your name and your position is important to have in the little box.
Yes,
And I would put probably just above you whoever was your supervisor.
but his
So
name as well or
yeah, put his name, because especially if he's the one that's going to sign your reference letter, it's
yes,
then important that it appears in the organizational chart as being your supervisor. So let's say that yeah, Mr. Pedro was your supervisor, and then you get a reference letter, and then Mr. Pedro signs the letter. So it's a good evidence to match, you
yeah,
know. If Mr. Jose signs the letter, but Pedro was your supervisor, they could ask why Jose signed the letter when Pedro was your supervisor. And then you can probably, sometimes your supervisor already left the company, and then somebody from the human resources department, they signed the letter. So but I like to have the name and the position, at least, of your supervisor there.
Great. Yeah, that explains a lot because I didn't know if I just include my name there or only the department, and or both or but thank you for clarify
Yeah,
this.
that's okay.
Um, and in the case of the summary statement,
Yeah,
where we we have to mention a paragraph numbering to meet the competence
yeah,
for the engineers Australia, right?
yes.
Uh, I would like to know, we can mention only one paragraph for competency, or we have to mention only more than one?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Lucas. And you have, obviously, you probably know that you have 16 competencies
Yes.
that you need to address. And you just need to do one summary statement. You just do one summary statement for the three career episodes. And then for each competency, you you got to think what's the purpose of the summary statement. Well, the purpose of the summary statement is to uh, let the assessor know that, one, why you are competent in that competency, and where the assessor can find the evidences of that competency.
And
So
you
for
can see
example,
all the competencies, right?
yeah, and that's why you got to have the numbers and everything. Because let's say, for example, competency 2.3, which is about design systems.
Okay.
So you were saying that you were designing um, pre-stressed concrete members, etc., etc. So you can say that in career episode number 2, I have designed structural components utilizing pre-stressing techniques, etc., etc., etc. So that's how you kind of demonstrate that competency. And then the paragraph numbers that are related to this competency, they are, let's say, 2.3, 2.6, 2.10, 2.8. And then career episode number 3 will be 3.3, 3.5, whatever. My suggestion is that for every single competency, you have at least 5 or 6 paragraph numbers.
Oh,
And why do I say that? Because the interpretation of competency is your interpretation and is the assessor's interpretation. And you could think that you're competent using that paragraph. And if you use just one paragraph number, imagine the situation. What if the assessor reads that paragraph and he or she thinks, nah, that's not related to that competency, and then cross that out? And then, because you had just one paragraph, if he or she crossed that paragraph out, you have then 0 paragraphs, which
yeah.
means that you're not addressing that competency. So my suggestion always is for you to uh, obviously depends how you write your report and everything and your experience, but if you could address a number, at least 5 or 6 paragraph numbers for each competency, the Engineers Australia assessor can eliminate, for example, 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, and you still have another 2 or 3 paragraphs that he or she could be happy with. So it's better for you. It's more guaranteed that you will be deemed competent, because if
Yeah.
you just put 1 or 2, if those 1 or 2 he or she is not happy, then you left with 0, and then you're not competent. So
Yeah.
you just got to
But
be
I have a
careful.
limited of characters to write my CDR as well, right? So it's complicated if I can include all these paragraphs in all the competence.
Sorry, say it again. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. We have a limitation in part with the words.
Yes, in
In
words.
part,
Yeah, you have between each career episode can be between 1,000 and 2,500 words. But from my experience of reading many, many, many career episodes, a normal engineer will write probably, and they're going to think that they're going to write a lot. They're going to write about 1,600 words. And I keep saying to them, write more. You've got another 900 words to spare. So when I wrote my career episodes, I wrote about 2,500 words. All my students, they all write 2,500 words because the more you write, the more you can demonstrate. So if you write between 1,000 and 1,500 words, I can guarantee to you that the evidences will be very, very weak. So you can write 2,500 words. So there's no problem. It's going to be about probably 7 or 8 pages, 25 paragraphs. But obviously, you got to write good paragraphs. You cannot just kind of, how can I say, encher a linguiça, but you got to write good paragraphs. Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Um, for my question now, it's for the CPD.
Yep.
Uh, when you already told me we can include in my CPD workshops, certificates,
Yes.
or mentories, um, everything that can be included in the CPD. But I would like to know, for example, books. Uh, can I include the books in CPD, or can I mention in a separate area for like only for books that
Now you
I
can now you can include in your CPD. Your CPD is going to be just one page uh, in a list format. You can kind of split in 5 columns. Those 5 columns, you can have your date, the date that you did the learning event, the CPD event, the description of the event, and then the duration of that event. Uh, where did you get that event from, and who was the organizer of that event? So let's say a book. You read a book about concrete pathologies, for example, which is good for civil engineers. You probably read already that book.
yeah.
You can say that you read, let's say today, the 10th of December 2020. I read chapter 12 that talks about shrinkage cracking in pre-stressed concrete pathologies, whatever. And then took you, let's say, 1.5 hours to read the chapter. And the book names, you can put the book name as the source of the CPD, and the organizer, then you can put the name of the author or the writer of the book. So that is your one line CPD event. And then as a spreadsheet or a table, you just put line after line after line. Just got to have a limit of 1 page, A4 size. So, but you can include together with your workshops. You can put together with your graduate, post graduation
Yeah,
courses.
I asked that because mostly when you include in your CPD a workshop or certificate, we have a date that you will participate in that specific course, right? And for a book, we actually can't put a date there.
Yeah, it's
We
difficult.
mention the,
Yeah,
yeah, we just mention
yeah.
the name of the book.
Maybe put a
Uh,
month. If you can remember the month that you read it, you can put there. Let's say April 2020. Yeah.
okay,
So in terms of the CPD, you don't need to be very concerned about, very worried about CPD. as long as you can demonstrate that since you graduated, every year you had a little bit of a continuing professional development.
Awesome. Um, so this question is a bit related for myself.
Yep.
When I was when I was doing my university, I was working in my area as kind of civil engineer, but I didn't have my degree yet.
Yep.
Of course, I was kind of technical engineer,
Yep.
working the job sites, in the construction job site, building construction, and I have a lot of tasks and roles daily as management and also for the quality and everything that as a civil engineer does.
Yep.
Uh, but I cannot validate my diploma, including my experience, because they only count after my degree, right? But for to write my CDR, I can write my CDR with experience.
Yes.
Uh, yes, but do I need to request a letter from this company where I used to work if I'm doing the CDR related to my work experience?
Yes. When you were, if you were working before graduated, it's kind of a some sort of a internship, like a estágio.
Yes, but in my
Yeah.
case, it wasn't a estágio. I was
Was a proper
registered.
employment. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, you could use that experience. The only thing is a bit, you got to be a little bit careful with using a work experience before you graduated. It's that, because unless you're really really very closed supervised, the experience that you potentially could use may not be equivalent to a professional engineer. So if you describe activities that were not very complex, they could say that that experience is more aligned to a technician or to a technologist. So you could be having one career episode if you use, for example, this experience as a career episode. They could come back to you saying that this experience, unfortunately, does not match with the professional engineer level. So they could ask you to rewrite at the level of a professional engineer. So very very difficult for you to, before graduated, and you can't really say that you design things, etc., because you are not a graduated engineer. They could say, well, that's against the code of ethics because you were doing a job of an engineer without being an engineer. I know that
yes,
in Brazil sometimes we do it,
we
but
do it.
yeah, we do it, but you probably don't need to tell them.
Okay,
Yeah.
but if I'm doing my CDR related to my work experience in this case, can I find like engineer case more complex, and I need the letter from the company I used to work?
Yeah, every work experience that you use, it needs to come with a reference letter, unfortunately. So there are three cases that you need a reference letter. One, when you're using a work experience as part of your career episode. If you're using work experience, you gotta have a reference letter. If you put in your resume that you worked more than 12 months as an engineer, you gotta have your reference letter. And the third case is if you are applying for the Relevant Skilled Employment Assessment, RSEA, you got to have your reference letter. So those three cases, if you're doing those, you got to have your reference letter.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Uh, I think now I'm going to ask about resume, because most of engineers here in Brazil or in Australia, they finish their CDR, got approved for engineers Australia, and next step is writing a good resume, good cover letter and apply for jobs and hope have this opportunity as civil engineer in Australia. Um, but I have two questions first about resume because I know for the application for the engineers Australia, we also have to attach a resume, right?
Yes.
And in this resume for the application first, um, do we do we have to put all the, for example, the experiences in Australia as well in Brazil before graduated as well, and like, do I need to include pictures, reference? What is the best kind of resume to uh, upload in the system of engineers Australia for the
Yeah,
application?
for the application, the resume needs to have at least the activities that you did. A lot of times resumes they have activities that you're going to do, or you were responsible to do, but sometimes you were responsible but you never did. But for the application, it's important to again understand that the objective of your application is to demonstrate that you are competent in what you say that you did. So your resume needs to have the things that you did that will support, for example, your career episodes. If you know already what you're going to write in your career episodes, and if that experience is part of a company that you worked and it's going to be in your resume, put in your resume activities that are related to what you're going to write in your career episode, because then it's kind of is linked between the resume and the career episode and the reference letter. So all the three documents, they are then very related and very linked. So just got to be careful. Whatever you write in there is got to be relevant to what you're going to write in your career episode. But it's important to have the things that you did, the results that you achieved, and if you remember the name of the project or projects that you worked, perhaps just put a reference in your resume, because then when you're going to talk about those projects in your career episode, they are already linked between the resume and the career episode.
Awesome. Uh, in this case, for the work experience, for example, when you work in Australia, let's say I worked in Australia as a supervisor in a small company of cleaning or carpenter, or building. I was kind of supervising, but of course I wasn't registered or anything. I worked at like a sole trader, ABN or something like that. And um, should I include in my resume this work experience in Australia for a short term, even if it's not too much related to my area, but it was a kind of management, or supervising stuff? Or what do you reckon?
Yeah, the engineers Australia, they require in your resume, since you graduated, you gotta have all periods until the date of your application. So let's say that you graduated, yeah, a few years ago, and then you spent, let's say, 3 years in Australia, and you didn't work as an engineer.
Yes.
But since you arrived here, since you left your job as an engineer in Brazil, for example, and then spent 3 years here, you cannot have gaps in your resume. So until the date of your application. So if you worked as a cleaner, if you worked as a waiter, if you worked as a carpenter, if you worked as assistant manager, whatever, you gotta have all periods of employment since you graduated
In the application or in the
in the
resume?
resume for your application. Yeah. So
Okay.
if you have gaps in your resume, Engineers Australia will ask you the question, "What did you do in this time?"
That was very good.
Yeah.
question to do because I had a very big gap in my resume, to be honest, because
Yeah.
I hid this previously experience in Australia in the beginning as a cleaner or kitchen hand. You know, I didn't include in my resume, to be honest.
Yeah,
Uh,
and in Australia, it's very common. Very common. People have gap years. They talk about gap year, which is a year that you don't really work in your profession. It's a period of time that you do something else. You just go travel, or you work in something else, or you take a rest to study, or just to do nothing. So gap year is common here. So, and it's a requirement. Engineers Australia, they will ask you if you have a gap in your resume. They'll ask you the question, what did you do in that period? Yeah.
yeah, okay. But you can also say for some periods of this gap, we uh, you were studying or
Yeah, you can say
focusing
that.
on
Yeah, because
you did
you
work.
did your diploma in project management. You did your advanced diploma in project management. It probably took a good 2 or 3 years for that. You
Yeah.
can say that you studied in those periods. Obviously, matching with the certificates dates. Yeah,
Yes, yes, definitely. And the other question about the resume, so the question I did was for the application,
yeah,
and for let's say we are finally engineer in Australia, and now we got approved from engineers in Australia. And now I want to looking for a job. I want to be a real engineer in Australia, working in my area. And uh, how should I make this resume like to apply for my first job? Should I also include all these gaps? Should I also included all these previously work that it wasn't related to my area? Should I include a picture? Should I put the reference in Brazil and in Australia? What do you recommend?
yeah. The resume when you're trying to get your first professional job can be a little bit tricky. Every resume has got to be customized to the position that you're applying. So I see many people, they get one resume, and then they hire a company, and the company then sends kind of a 500 resumes, and then obviously nobody's going to call you because your resume needs to be customized for the position that you are applying for. So if you're applying for a structural engineer position, for example, the experiences and the examples and results that you got to include in your resume has got to be focused in the structural engineer job. Obviously, you can put that you worked as in other jobs. It shows resilience. It shows that the person is able to. They also admire people that kind of they left their home country and they come to here and they do a lot of things, and then they finally got approved, and then they try to find a job as an engineer. So it shows that the professional is a resilient professional, and you are able to adapt yourself. So you don't need to hide everything, because there are some credits when you're showing that you are a resilient professional. So, but yeah, the resume needs to be customized for each position.
Yes. And in my on my resume in the work experience, uh, my question is to describe my role in the company I used to work, to describe my tasks, my responsibilities in the company I used to work. Should I describe the project I used to work on my resume, describing everything I used to do there, how was the kind of the project, the dimension of the project, uh, describing the resume, or only including the tasks in the responsibilities on my resume? What kind of
Yeah,
resume I
more
should?
important about more important than the tasks and your responsibilities. I think it's the results that you achieved. So you can put probably 4 or 5 tasks, the main tasks that you did, but then more important is to present the probably the top one or top two result that you achieved. Companies, they when they are trying to recruit, especially engineers, they are recruiting for results. They're not recruiting because you are a nice person and this and that, etc.
Yeah,
They're recruiting somebody because they want somebody that can achieve results. So every opportunity, you need to make sure that you explain and you demonstrate the results that you achieved.
great. Um, and we know in Australia we have Gumtree, LinkedIn,
Yeah.
Seek, and other websites to looking for a job. And what website and also what the subtitle we should search for a job, like for example, to start as an engineer, if I'm engineer junior or if I'm project management, what's the keyword to looking for my first opportunity in Australia?
Yeah, obviously it depends on the level of experience. A big mistake that a lot of people they do is because, and I did the same mistake when I arrived here. I When I came here, I came with a lot of experience, and I started once I got my validation, I started to apply for very high level jobs because I had a very high level job back in Brazil, and didn't work. Nobody was calling me, etc., etc. At the end of the day, companies, it's the market. It is how the market works. Nowadays, there's a lot of engineers in the market. So then there's a lot of engineers with Australian experience as well. So an overseas engineer that came here, validated their qualification, and trying to get the first professional job, you will have to, unfortunately, have to look for entry positions. And entry positions is graduate engineers. Sometimes not even as an engineer. Sometimes as a drafts person. Sometimes as an assistant engineer. Sometimes as an assistant project manager. So at least you can get your foot in the door,
Yes.
and then once you are in the company, people will know that you are a qualified engineer, that you have that experience. You will get to know more job opportunities within the company. So also, if especially if you're coming here as an international student, a lot of mistakes that people they do, they apply for full-time permanent positions, and you'll never get it because as an international student, one, you have a temporary visa. Your visa is temporary as a
Yes.
student, and also you can just work 20 hours a week, so it's part-time. So when you apply for a full-time permanent position, you never get it because
You're not
companies they spend,
reliable.
and companies they spend between 15 and $25,000 to recruit somebody. If they're spending that much of money, they're not going to recruit somebody that cannot be permanent
Yeah.
because so you need to apply for temporary positions and part-time positions. So I know it's more difficult, etc., but that's the limitation of your visa.
Makes
So
more reliable to also leave in the resume that your kind of visa and that you can work only part-time and of course apply for just part-time jobs.
yes, I think it's a good idea, and I can tell you by myself. I In the company that I work today, I recruited already many dozens of engineers and project managers. And if I shortlist somebody, if this somebody cannot work full time or permanent as we advertise, I f- I face that as dishonesty because people need to be upfront because my time is very valuable. And when I assess 50 applications, if you cannot work full time, if you cannot work permanently, and if you're applying for a job where it clearly says that it's a full time permanent, you're trying to kind of mislead the panel, and that's not a good attitude. So to
No.
me, if somebody gets that to me, even if it that does make the short list, I will find out that you cannot work permanently, you cannot work full time. And certainly, those people, they're not the best and they're not the only professional available in the market. So, if they were the only professional in the market, they potentially even could do that. But
Yeah.
no, there's plenty more. If you try to get to that stage, telling lies and etc., it will come to the surface, and then you're not going to start your professional career with a good impression. So I think it's good. It's good to have in your cover letter, in your resume, that you are an international student. You can work part time, temporary, but you open for future sponsorship.
Yeah.
So if you get a sponsorship, you can work full time, and you can say, if you get to an interview, you can say that, yeah, I happy to start as a temporary part time, and I'll show my value, and the company will trust in my work, and hopefully we can negotiate a future sponsorship.
Perfect. And how is the situation in Australia now? Do the company offer this kind of jobs part time for junior
Yeah,
engineers?
it's incredibly now, especially with the pandemic. A lot of companies now, they, because of the COVID and everything and working from home, a lot of people, they elected to work part-time. And if somebody was working full-time and then decided to work part-time, sometimes got to look after the kids, they gotta, or they just want to slow down and work part-time, the company will need to backfill the other half, for example. So if you work, if you look for part-time positions and temporary positions, there will be plenty of obviously not as many as permanent full-time, but temporary positions and part-time positions. I believe it's growing in terms of necessity because of the pandemic and because of working from home, because of the flexible work arrangement.
Awesome. And uh, for the cover letter, uh, what is the best method to cause a good impression when you are sending your cover letter to the companies? And what do you suggest for engineers start uh, including in their cover letter to looking for a job?
Yeah, in terms of cover letter, same as the resume. Each cover letter needs to be customized to the position. That's a big mistake that many people they do. And the cover
It
letter needs to address the selection criteria. Majority of the positions that you find in the market, there will be a position description attached, and then in the position description, you will find probably what they call key competencies, selection criteria,
yeah,
which are 4 or 5 areas that the company is looking for. And then in the cover letter, you need to be very specific and then get real examples of how you have achieved those selection criteria. Give real examples. I've seen so many cover letters that they say they have just 2 paragraphs. My name is Jerson. I'm a civil engineer with more than 25 years of experience, etc., etc. And
Mhm.
with my competencies, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be a good asset to the company. And I would love an opportunity to explore in more depth in an interview. Best regards, Jerson. So when I get that cover letter, it goes straight to the rubbish bin
It's only about
because
yourself.
yeah, if you think that somebody is going to ask you to come for an interview just because you're asking for an interview so you can explore your competencies, you're absolutely wrong, because companies will have, as I said before, about 50, 60, 70 applications, and those applications that are good, they'll make the cut, they'll be shortlisted. Those ones that they don't really say anything, they go straight to the bin. So the cover letter needs to be obviously sometimes there's limitation, 2 pages, for example. You got to have a very objective introduction, and then you got to go straight to the selection criteria. I can demonstrate this selection criteria by criteria number one: when I did this, I achieved that result, and I did this, etc., etc. Criteria two: this I can demonstrate when I delivered this project, I achieved this result, and when I did this, etc., etc. Criteria three, four, five, and then in the end, you just put a golden end paragraph saying that uh, you need to identify the pain of the company, what the company is after, and then you conclude your cover letter saying that you are going to resolve the problem of the company and you would love to be considered for an interview. You can say that once you demonstrate all the all the selection criteria.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying everything, Gerson. And I think is my I could understand everything I was questioning for myself. And um, my last question, I think, is what do you um, recommend and suggest for a person like me that is doing the CDR, that is doing the process to validate diploma with with the Engineers Australia, and of course watching all your videos and understanding how the process works. It's a very hard challenge to begin, but um, it's not impossible. We know that everyone can achieve this goal. And what do you suggest? What can we do to be persistent, to still pushing to get what we want to be an engineer in Australia?
Well, I think first, first, Lucas, I was just going to find something here, just to motivate you guys. Well, first of all, I think what you guys got to do is just to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself that you can do it. If I did it, you guys can do it. Yes, you say you're right. The process is not easy. The process is actually simple. It's a 6 step. Step by step, you follow the steps, you will get there. But unfortunately, it's not easy because you gotta write a report, you gotta organize documents, you gotta do your English test. But in the end, it's very, very rewarding. When you become an engineer here in Australia, the workplaces they provide very good environments. And I'm going to just it's a I think it's a 20-second 34-second message that I got from one of my students, and just feel the emotion. And every time that I hear this message, it motivates me to keep going, to help guys like you, to help like I help her, and I help many and many many others. Just have a listen to this.
Gerson, eles responderam. Eu tô chorando de alegria aqui. eles aprovaram meu diploma, graças a Deus, a minha validação, e aprovaram meus 2 anos de Austrália, mais 6 anos no Brasil. Meu Deus do céu, não tô aguentando de felicidade. Ai, meu Deus, obrigada, obrigada, obrigada. Eu não tenho nem como te agradecer. Nossa, muito obrigada. Jairus, você não sabe o quanto que você me ajudou. Depois eu vou até escrever um depoimento no Facebook te agradecendo, porque, nossa, muito obrigada. Foi muito essencial. Foi muito essencial. Obrigada mesmo.
Não deve ter sensação melhor.
Wow. Well, I don't know if I was as happy as she was. She certainly was very,
Deve.
very happy. And she's also a civil engineer from Brazil. And she was one of my students of my mentoring as well. And when I get those sort of messages, it keeps me motivating and keeps encouraging you guys. So what you gotta do: be patient, be persistent, believe in yourself. Um, Keep following me and watching my videos. A lot of people, they need a little bit more help. For those that need a little bit more help, I've got my online mentoring program that can guide you with more objectiveness for you to reach your objective quicker. All of you guys doing by yourself, but do guys need my mentoring? Majority not. I didn't. Took me a while, but some people, they don't need it. A lot of people, I get messages of people that they got validated without having my mentoring, just following my videos and information that I share and everything. And I'm always happy. I'm happy either way. If I can help you with my free videos, or if I can help you with my mentoring. But believe in yourself. You guys can do it. Um, be part of my Telegram group. I always share information in the Telegram group as well. I have live sessions every Sunday where I share information about the validation process. I share information about, I've got videos in my YouTube channel, Lucas, about the curriculum, cover letter, and professional interviews.
Yep.
I explain in a lot of more details. So I've got more than 180 videos in my YouTube channel. So there's a lot of material there. So it's more than almost 1,800 hours of free content that I put in the internet. So I think, and you got to read carefully the booklet. The booklet is your Bible. You got to read that carefully. A lot of people, they try to do without reading the booklet, and that's a big mistake. So everything is in the booklet. Interpretation, yeah, interpretation can be different, can be more difficult. But if you are patient and persistent, you will get there.
Awesome. I already read the booklet more than 20 times, 30 times. I still uh, need to understand more. It's like you have to be persistent and patient, like you said.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to be the next one to thank you after I got the answer with Engineers Australia, like this girl did with you.
Yeah,
And
I'm pretty sure we will, Lucas. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm very grateful for you and for Hello Australia. They also give me a lot of support when I was in Australia and also in this time here in Brazil, because I'm looking for ways to return to Australia. And I won this draw, and um, it's kind of a very good sign for me to be
It is. Yeah.
going with my report, with my CDR, and who knows, I'm gonna apply, make my application next year as soon as the borders are open again and things go back to normal again. We all hope, and I'm very grateful for you too, Gerson. Thank you for explaining everything for me.
No, that's okay, Lucas. Thank you very much for your time, also for your agreement to kind of share your experience with others. As you know, I explained to you that I would like to broadcast in Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. so
Yeah,
other people they can learn, they can hear your questions and hear my answers, and the information then can go to as many people as we can. So thank you very
exactly.
much for your time.
That's the goal. I
Yeah,
also sharing this video with some engineers friends. They also want to know how is the process to go to Australia to try a life in Australia. All
yeah,
Brazilians and all people overseas they want to try a life in Australia, and they're gonna understand all the process with
yeah.
you and watching all your videos.
No, that's good. And they can go to my website, www.engineersinaustralia.com, and they can subscribe to the site and they can get my emails when I send information about the free workshop. I send information about my mentoring program. I send information about my live sessions. So they can get my emails. And for those ones, I would like to certainly thank you, the audience in Instagram and the audience in Facebook and YouTube as well. If you guys want to are interested and want to learn more about my mentoring program, the enrollments are open until this Sunday. Sunday, I'm going to close the enrollments and start the new group. And the link is in my bio in Instagram or in the video description in Facebook and YouTube. So yeah, thanks, Lucas, and I wish you all the best and all the good luck in Brazil. And I hope that next time that I can see you here in Australia with one of those helmets.
Definitely. I
And
gonna meet you on site.
yes, we can meet on site. All
Great.
right, guys. Yeah, thanks, Lucas. Thank you
Thank you
very
very much.
much. And thanks to Hello as well.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and have a good weekend